If you loved books like Braiding Sweetgrass, I Who Have Never Known Men, and Solenoid, or if you're someone who loves to read books in translation, or if you're someone who prides yourself on reading widely from authors from a wide variety of backgrounds, you're going to want to pay attention to this. Let me quote from a recent Publishers Weekly article, which I will also link in the description below. In the article, Publishers Weekly says, on May 2nd, the National Endowment for the Arts terminated or rescinded grants already awarded in the 2025 fiscal year to a number of cultural institutions, including several nonprofit publishers and literary organizations. According to a crowdsourced list, publishers whose NEA grants were terminated include Alice James Books, Aunt Loot Books, Boa Editions, the Center for the Art of Translation, Deep Vellum, Four-Way Books, Hub City Writers Project, Open Letter Books, Milkweed Editions, Night Boat Books, Red Hen Press, and Transit Books. So these were grants that had already been awarded to these publishers. The publishers had already factored them into their 2025 fiscal year planning. They are grants that these publishers rely on to do their work, and they were canceled. I don't know if the names of these publishers I just listed are familiar to you. If you've been here on this channel before, they're probably very familiar to you, but most American readers don't really pay attention to the publisher of the books that they read. So let me quickly, just to set up this scene, explain publishing in America. Very, very basically, in the United States, there are 5 big publishers, really big publishers with lots of imprints. And these big 5 publishers are owned by massive media conglomerates. The big 5 control most of the book publishing in the United States. And their primary concern as entities of these mega conglomerations, their primary concern is making a profit. But you also have for-profit independent publishers. Independent publishers simply means they are not owned by a larger corporation. They operate independently. An example of a large independent publisher would be Norton. An example of a medium-ish sized independent for-profit publisher would be Grove Atlantic. An example of a tiny for-profit independent publisher would be Dorothy, a publishing project. Then you have hybrid publishers, which, to be honest, I'm not gonna go into exactly what those are in this video or explain that here, but you can look that up yourself. We have hybrid publishers, and also we have authors in the US who are self-published. And then you have nonprofit publishers. That includes university-based presses like Northwestern University Press would be an example, but it also includes nonprofit publishers who are not affiliated with a university. All those publishers I listed from the Publishers Weekly article would be examples of nonprofit publishers, so like Deep Vellum and Milkweed, but you also have other nonprofit publishers that are big names like Grey Wolf and Coffee House Press are both nonprofit publishers. These are mission-based publishers who survive on grants and donations in addition to book sales, and they do not make a profit from their publishing venture. Both university-affiliated nonprofit presses and other nonprofit presses have been impacted by the cancellation of these NEA grants. So now that we kind of have a little bit of an understanding of the landscape, let's familiarize ourselves a little bit with some of the publishers listed in the Publishers Weekly article. So Transit Books publishes incredible boundary-pushing works of literary fiction and nonfiction, including books like the breakout hit I Who Have Never Known Men. Nobel Prize-winning authors like Jan Fosse are published by Transit Books, and they have other award-winning books like The Birthday Party, which was longlisted for the International Booker Prize. Milkweed is a Minneapolis-based publisher who publishes many books from underrepresented voices. They publish amazing fiction, nonfiction, and poetry, and you might be familiar with their books if you're familiar with Braiding Sweetgrass and the poetry of former U.S. Poet Laureate Ada Limon. Open Letter and Open Letter. Open Letter, publisher of this year's Republic of Consciousness Prize winner Melville, and Two Lines Press, which is part of the Center for the Art of Translation, are completely dedicated to publishing literary works in translation and bringing those works to American readers. Alice James Books is a renowned publisher of poetry, and they're named after Alice James, sister of none other than Henry James, a brilliant woman who was denied a formal education because she was a woman. We have Hub City, which is a publisher based in Spartanburg, South Carolina, completely dedicated to new and unsung writing from the American South. And Deep Vellum, which is the largest publisher of translated literature in the United States, and was founded as both a publisher and a bookstore to bring a literature dedicated space to the city of Dallas, Texas. These publishers are all great sources of innovative, wide-ranging works of literature in the United States today. They are vitally important to the health of the American publishing scene. They take risks on new voices that larger corporate publishers would never bet on. They often prioritize artistic value over marketability, nurturing work that might otherwise be overlooked or silenced. They are also important to their local communities. Deep Vellum and Hub City are really great examples of this. They have physical locations where they can put on literary events for their communities. But not only that, they are publishers that are located outside of New York City, where most publishing houses are headquartered. And this location outside of New York really shapes their identities as publishers and shapes their catalogs as well in fresh and exciting ways. I don't want to only read books picked by New Yorkers, do you? If you are only reading books that are being published by New York-based houses, that's effectively what's happening. Obviously, not all employees of New York-based publishers are originally from New York, so I'm being a little bit silly here, but I'm also being kind of serious. If you are someone, and I know there are a lot of you out there, if you are someone who has complained that everyone seems to be reading the same books, that all of the book recommendation lists are listing all the same books, that you're seeing all the same books on the front tables of your bookstore, I hear your pain. But I also want to push back on that a little bit, because it's not that hard to find books that are a bit more under the radar. I've been doing it for a while now, and not only is it pretty easy, it's also super fun to just dig a little bit deeper to find those hidden gems that not everyone else is reading. But it's gonna get a lot harder to find those slightly hidden gems if these small publishers, who are the ones committed to publishing amazing literary work outside mainstream trends, it's going to get a lot harder to find those hidden gems if these small publishers can't do their jobs because they lack funding. Because they take artistic literary risks with what they publish, they can't really survive on book sales alone. And with the cancellation of these NEA grants, these nonprofit publishers are taking a big financial hit. And if you care about book publishing in America, and if you think that books from a wide range of voices are important to a society, if you think that giant corporations who care only about the bottom line shouldn't completely control what books are published in the United States, then you need to care about this. And if you do care, what should you do? The best thing you can do is donate. I'll leave a link below to the Crowdsourced list of publishers and other organizations impacted by the cancellation of these NEA grants. If you have the discretionary funds to do so, and if you have shelves full of unread books and really don't need to buy any more books right now, maybe consider making a donation to one or more of these organizations. This month, I have donated to Alice James Books, Hub City, Two Lines Press, and Words Without Borders, which is not a publisher, but it is an organization I personally value so much. And it also is an organization that had its NEA grant terminated. The next best thing you can do is free to do. You can spread the word. You can make a video like this. You can tell people about these publishers. You can talk about books from these publishers that you've read. If you haven't read any books from these publishers, take a look at their catalogs and talk about books that you might want to read. The third best thing you can do is buy books directly from these publishers. When you buy books directly from the publisher, more of your money goes to the publisher and the author. Another incredible thing you can do is check out these books from your library. Libraries need our love right now too. Data based on the number of books checked out from libraries is tracked. And that is one of the measurements used to determine the kind of impact libraries have on their communities. So check out books from your library. If they don't have these books, maybe make a request that they purchase them. They may or may not be able to, but at least you can check. Another great thing you can do. And the fifth best thing you can do is subscribe to my free, always free newsletter. Every month, I send 2 big long lists of books published the previous month by independent publishers and nonprofit publishers. I always include a link for every single book to the webpage on the publisher's website. It is not a Substack. It is a free email newsletter. Check it out. I personally believe that if you deny someone the opportunity to tell their own story, you effectively deny them the right to exist and function within a society. Books that tell stories, fiction, narrative nonfiction, and poetry too, are vitally important to humanity. They are vitally important to America, but only if the books that are accessible and available are from the widest possible range of storytellers who have the widest possible range of backgrounds and experiences. If you believe that too, then you have to care about small nonprofit presses in America, because they are the ones dedicated to bringing many of those stories to light.